Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Payday Super webinar. This is the first time we've been able to do one of these Payday Super webinars with Sybiz Visipay 26.10 release, so we'll be looking at that as well in the context of Payday Super. So let's just jump straight on into it. And yeah, as usual, we are software developers. We're not your accountants or your advisors from a tax perspective or anything like that. So that's the angle that we're coming from. And yeah, essentially, we're looking at Payday Super in the context of Sybiz Visipay. We will touch on a couple of the operational considerations, but we're just sort of giving you a couple of examples of the kind of things that you need to be aware of outside of the software as such. And one thing just to emphasize as well is that with our website, we will provide links through to ATO information. We don't republish the ATO information because they've requested that we don't do that, because it is changing on a almost daily basis. Just a word of warning as well, some of the ATO content is being updated without the actual date that the page was last updated being updated, if that makes any sense. So some things may look a little bit different since your last visit, even though those update dates haven't changed. And yeah, if you are not yet out of the blocks in terms of getting ready for Payday Super, I can see that there will be an increase in scams and things happening as we get to the finish line with the people that leave it to the last minute. That's yeah, a godsend for the fraudsters because urgency is one of the things that is pivotal to a lot of scams that go on. So yeah, please just be very, very careful, and also be careful from an information perspective as well. So especially in the day of AI summaries in your search engines, AI, a bit like me, sometimes it hallucinates and gives wrong information. So don't take the AI summaries as gospel. Drill down through to the official ATO sources, and in the case of Sybiz, to the official Sybiz website, rather than being misled by an AI hallucination. So, yeah, I guess the good news from a Sybiz perspective, we've done a lot of work. I'm really proud of what the team's done with the product for Sybiz Visipay 2610. And I guess the other good thing as well is I guess the combination of Sybiz Visipay and the ability to upload super, that's been in place for over 10 years. So if Payday Super was just purely submitting your super and paying it on payday, nothing else had changed, then Sybiz Visipay with Sybiz Super has been capable of doing that for over 10 years. But unfortunately, there are some other things that we need to be aware of, and that's what this session is all about. So what we're covering, we're just going to have a little bit of an intro, look at Payday Super, some of the things that you need to be aware of there, and then have a look at Sybiz Visipay 2610. I'll make a few points over and over again. You might say, oh, he said that before, but some things need reinforcing. And sometimes we'll talk about something and then we'll show some screens later that reinforces that point. So apologies for the repetition, but it is a little bit necessary on this occasion. And yeah, so with that, we'll jump straight into it. Just one thing on Sybiz Visipay 2610, this is a point that I will repeat, is that it is available now. You do not have to wait until the 1st of July to install it. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go as well. A little bit of a rant. I don't like doing this, but it has been a fairly substandard process that we've had with the ATO. Obviously, I'm not having a go at them personally. They've obviously been in the position of having legislation passed relatively late in the piece, and especially the regulations as well. So they've done their very best, but it has been a backward step in terms of the software community working with the ATO. So they've been doing things like telling employers to check with their payroll providers to see if they're ready before they've actually given us the test cases that we need to pass in order to be ready. So And also some of their communication, they're coming at it from their world of having these big payroll teams and big HR departments within the ATO. And that's obviously not the reality of a lot of small to medium businesses out there where there's one person wearing many hats. Payroll and HR just happens to be one of them. Yeah, just be mindful that some of that communication just isn't framed in a way that sort of makes sense to the broader business community. They've also been blasting some communication out without context. So we'll talk about the SSID and MVR a little bit later as well. And this one, we keep giving them feedback to stop doing this, but a lot of their calls to action say, speak to your software developers. It's 2026. Last time I checked, there's an internet out there, and that's where a lot of the information is. So please, if you do get a call to action like that, go to our website. That's there 24/7. We don't have people answering the phones 24/7, and have a look for the information there. By all means, if you don't find the information you're looking for, and it is related to the service that we provide as your software developers, give us a call. We're happy to take your call, but we are sort of mindful that we don't want anyone of our staff to be inundated with calls. In most cases, if there is something that you call us up for and it's already on the internet, all we're going to do is we're going to tell you this is the page to go to on our website so you can read it there in black and white so we don't miscommunicate something. Okay, so just in terms of how to look for information, again, this is important in the advent of AI as well. So when you go searching for things, just use your friendly neighborhood search engine. So whether that's Google or Bing or one of the other ones, continue to do that, but just include Sybiz or Visipay. So there's an example there of Sybiz SSID if you wanted to learn more about SSID. So if you get a mail shot from the ATO saying, oh, you're using your DSP is using an SSP and you need an SSID, all of these lovely acronyms that they don't really re-explain. If that sets you into panic, just jump on Google Sybiz SSID, and you'll get the context of what that means from a Sybiz and Sybiz Visipay perspective. So yeah, make sure you click through to the sybiz.com links. Don't rely on those AI generated summaries. And similarly, if you're looking for information that is more technical from the ATO/legal standpoint, do the same thing. Include ATO in your search term, and yeah, go through to the official ATO site. There is a lot of stale information out there. So if you Google something and you go to a non-official ATO or someone that's published stuff from the ATO and not kept it up to date, i.e., not doing what they're meant to as far as the ATO is concerned, then yeah, just make sure that you do click through to the official ATO source and make sure that it is yeah, up to date in that respect as well. Okay, so hopefully, given the fact that you've registered for this webinar or watching the recording, you're very mindful of what Payday Super is, but just in a simple sense, it is, or it can be just sort of as paying your super at the same time as you pay employees. Yeah, there's a bit more to it than that, of course, but yeah, so again, just where we've got the combination of Sybiz Visipay and Sybiz Super that's been able to do the big chunk of this for over 10 years. So the building blocks are there. It's not a scary, intimidating thing for us at all in terms of the functionality. So a couple other things as well. The funds must receive contributions within 7 business days. So what that technically means is that you don't have to pay super on the same day as payday, but it is best practice to do so, just because the longer you delay it, the more open you are to things coming into play. So the funds themselves have 3 business days to notify you of rejections, and that 3 business days still eats away at your original 7 days. So that means you only have 4 days left after you get the notification that that submission has been rejected. So yeah, just that's all the more reason to pay your super at the same time you pay your employees. And the super guarantee charge kicks in if you fail to meet your obligations. So in terms of getting ready, at a very high level, upgrade to Sybiz Visipay 2610. That's available now. You can use that now in the current financial year, the 25-26 financial year, to finish that off. Check your pay items for the qualifying earnings flag, and we'll talk about that a few times as well. Utilize a clearinghouse solution such as Sybiz Super, and if you haven't been doing that before, or perhaps you're moving off the small business superannuation clearinghouse, then yeah, try and get some submissions done prior to Payday Super starting, just so you can familiarize yourself with that process. And just reiterating as well that Payday Super is an employer obligation. So, yeah, the onus is on you to wrap your heads around the information that Sybiz and the ATO are providing, and get yourselves ready for the 1st of July. So a few other considerations as well. So as I said, if it was just a case of paying super on payday, nothing else to it, then the building blocks have been in place for over a decade, but some things are changing. So we have the qualifying earnings, which is a new concept. It is, if you're going to do a Venn diagram, there'd be a massive overlap with qualifying earnings and ordinary time earnings. So it's not too unfamiliar a concept, but it is a new concept, and you do need to tag your pay items as qualifying earnings. The STP2 related reporting, you can't submit those that change in format prior to the 1st of July. The ATO will reject your submissions. The good point on that is that we prevent that from occurring anyway. So we, with Sybiz Visipay 2610 and any other future versions, we have the ability to essentially report the way that it needs to be reported for the 25-26 year, and then flick over to Payday Super without you having to do anything else in your software. So the Sybiz Super and SAF export functions, we are splitting those for pre and post Payday Super. So I'll talk about that with a few screen grabs to make it easier to explain. The maximum contribution base is changing to annual from quarterly. So that makes life easier, but it is a change that we need to navigate. Again, that's something we automate for you as well. And yeah, so there's a lot that we have automated. So it is, I guess, just be mindful that some of the user interfaces will change depending on which financial year you're in. We'll take you through a bit of a tour of that. So we've made things as simple as possible, but it may be a little disconcerting with the UI changing either side of the 30th of June. So a couple Sybiz Super considerations. The Sybiz Super and SAF export file extension, we've changed that now to .saff. The main reason for that is just to limit any inadvertent editing of that, what is essentially a CSV file under the hood. So you are still able to open that in a spreadsheet program or a notepad program. You just need to change to all file types in order to open it up. It is still the same file. It just has a different file extension just to limit any inadvertent editing of the file. So, and I'll make this one a few times as we go through, because we did get a few questions on this. Sybiz Super submissions can't be post-dated at the moment, so it is something that SuperChoice may make available in future. But so what that means is that if you process your pays and you're going on leave for a couple of weeks, and you need to do your super submission as well, and you're doing these things in advance, even though you can post date your EFT file for your employees, you can't do the equivalent thing for your super. So just bear that in mind as well. If you are paying super to contractors under a voluntary withholding, or they could possibly be non-employees as well, based on the ATO terminology, we will be extending Sybiz Visipay to cater to that. So keep an eye out for version 2611. That's something that's not been supported previously, but it has just come to our attention in the registration process that some people have been using Sybiz Visipay to pay super for employees, or even non-employees, in those categories, and so that's something we're looking to include later as well. So we do have a survey I should just mention as well. There will be a link provided in the follow-up email, and there's just a few questions in there. It'll take two to 3 minutes, and just give us a bit of an indication as to the kind of edge cases that you might be facing, and also how you see your readiness in the lead up to Payday Super. A few other considerations as well. The SSID, which is the software subscription identifier. Um, there's a process that we'll be going through where that will be provided to you. You will then need to go into the ATO's relationship authorization manager, I think it's called, and let the ATO know what your SSID is and essentially tie your SSID to your ABN. Yeah, so there's nothing for you to do now. The deferral that we have in place covers all Sybiz Visipay customers. You don't need to do anything. You're covered by that. As I said in the intro, in my rant, the ATO communication has been a bit, yeah, substandard. So there is a possibility that come September, they might send you a letter saying, hey, you haven't let us know your SSID yet, and all hell's going to break loose. Just tell them to, yeah, politely get off your case because you are covered by this deferral. We don't expect that will happen, but stranger things have happened. Similarly, this one's a little bit trickier, the member verification request. So this is something that sort of fell outside the Payday Super requirements and was communicated through the SuperStream workflow through the ATO and almost fell under the radar. Yeah, so essentially what this is there's going to be a requirement. Technically, it's starting from the 1st of July, but basically most of the super funds aren't ready for it. So if you Google MVR and go to one of the major super funds, you'll see that it will that they're going to be ready by March 2027. There is nothing on the ATO side of the fence that we can point to officially that says March 2027. So we are looking for them to publish something along those lines. But you will see the industry super funds, a lot of them are deferring that to March 2027. But what that actually is, and it is important to understand a little bit about where we're heading with this, is part of the process of Payday Super is that it's going to be mandatory for employers when they get a new employee or an employee changes their super fund details to send off a member verification request to the super fund prior to trying to send submissions to the super fund to say, hey, Johnny's just joined us. He's given us these details. Does that match your records? So if we send you a submission, you're going to take it and put it where it needs to go. And then the super fund will come back and say, yep, that's all good. We know all about Johnny, or hang on, we've never heard of him, or the member number's wrong, or something along those lines. So that just means I guess the motivation there is that rather than finding out when you do your first submission that the submission is going to get rejected, you can sort of cut that off at the pass and get ahead of that. So yeah, there's good intentions within that, but yeah, it's just been a bit shoddily rolled out in terms of timeframes, etc. And yeah, just speaking of deferrals, Payday Super itself cannot be deferred. So for those that have been handling the payroll function for quite some time now, and they've been around for the advent of SuperStream and then STP1, STP2, there have been deferral processes that have been part and parcel of that. Sybiz ourselves were asked to defer STP2. We were ready, but the ATO wanted to stagger the payroll software developers entering the market. But Payday Super itself cannot be deferred. And a couple other things to be aware of outside of the software itself. We won't go into too many details here, but just obviously there's cash flow implications with the change in timing. There's the crossover of the due dates for your Q4 26-27 contribution and Payday Super. So some employers will perhaps do 3 lots of Payday Super before they pay their 26-27 final contribution. So that's just something to be aware of there. The Small Business Superannuation Clearinghouse is closing. Hopefully you know all about that if you're using that and you've got an alternative in place. Bounce backs from funds, they've got 3 days to bounce it back. So what that means, and this is quite important, that you may have been sending imperfect information to your funds previously, and they've had the time to sort of go, oh, yep, that member number's wrong, but hey, we'll communicate back that that the member number's wrong, but all the other details are right. We know that it belongs in this person's account, so we'll put it in the account still. So they're not rejecting it. They'll send information back. You're probably oblivious to that information because you haven't got a refund with it. But these funds are now going to turn around in panic mode because they've previously had, I think it's 21 days or 28 days. Uh, in any case, a lot longer than 3 days. So those things that they were doing nicely before, saying, yep, it's an imperfect submission, but we can sort of manually process it through, they're probably just going to flat out reject things. So it's the same information you've been sending them perhaps for years that they've been manually putting where it needs to go, and all of a sudden they're going to start rejecting it. So just bear that in mind as well. Let your employees know as well that if they change any of their super, to let you know, because at the end of the day, it's going to be on you as the employer. If you have an employee that's tardy in providing you information, so looking at that workflow of a submission being rejected, and then perhaps your employee's on leave, they're not contactable, and bang, your 7 days are up. Or in case of new hires, 20 days is up, and yeah, you get pinged as the employer, not the employee, for being tardy and giving you that information or giving you the wrong information in the first place. So also make sure your new employees give you the correct information. If you have self-managed super funds in the mix, they do need to be set for the new payments platform as well. There are also, to do with SMSFs, there are some electronic service address providers that are exiting the market. So bear that in mind, and perhaps just double check with your SMSF employees to make sure that they're across those things. And as I said, super funds may start rejecting submissions that they were previously accepting. And yeah, so we hope that you don't get it wrong. We hope that it all goes smoothly for you, but at least wrap your heads around what you need to do if it doesn't go right for you. And the ATO have also released some guidelines for their compliance approach in the first year. So yeah, a bit more homework to do there from a non-Visipay perspective. Okay, in terms of what we've automated, some of the things that we've done. So essentially, if you've not yet upgraded to at least 2510 of Sybiz Visipay, essentially what we're doing when you do upgrade to 2610 is, if you had a pay item flagged as attracting super, then the qualifying earnings flag will be automatically turned on for those pay items. So what that essentially means is that if you were paying super on something that you don't need to, then you can still pay super on it, but just turn the qualifying earnings flag off. And that's something you'll need to do carefully because, yeah, you configure your own pay items within the system. So, yeah, we've automated as much as we can. And yeah, the other thing that we've done, as I said, is we've suppressed the qualifying earnings reporting prior to the 1st of July, so you don't have to worry about that. And then we automatically commence that for you from the 1st of July. So there's nothing for you to do to say, yep, we're in Payday Super now. The software handles that automatically in the process of rolling the end of year process. We have also changed the logic for the quarterly to annual transition in the maximum contribution base. And so any staff types you currently have flagged as attracting the MCB will be flagged. And the amount itself, we've moved that out of the individual staff types and put that in a centralized area. So that is taken care of for you. Yeah, and I guess just another thing just to point out on there is, for people that exceed the maximum contribution base, that is essentially where qualifying earnings taps out at. So qualifying earnings maxes out. There's nothing you need to do there. You don't need to create separate pay items, with some being qualifying earnings and some not. We handle that for you. Similarly, with the under 18s working 30 hours or less, you don't need separate pay items for that. If they 1 week work more than 30 hours, then the same pay items will come into play, and we'll start reporting qualifying earnings in those scenarios. So I guess the base mechanics of what happens with under 18s working 30 or hours, 30 or less hours per week. That hasn't changed, so we won't bang on too much about that. So if you do have employees in that category, apart from the qualifying earnings quirks, which we handle for you, nothing else is changing. From a UI perspective, we do make some changes based on your current financial year. So we'll have a look at those in a moment as well. And there is also a new option to hold ESG until a particular date to cater for the employer super shortfall exemption certificates. Now, we had a few questions about that as well. So for most people, it won't mean anything, but obviously for those that it has meaning, that is an important new change to let you know about. Okay, so reporting super from Sybiz Visipay, you've got the Sybiz Super option that uses the same Sybiz employer portal as STP. So that's the clearinghouse that we've partnered with at Sybiz, and that's available to you. Just if you Google Sybiz Super and go to the Sybiz website, you can find the information that you need there. There's a PDS to go through because it is a financial services product, so we'll let the PDS do the talking. And there's also the SAF file export module that's also available. So you might want to add that to your license if you're exporting a SAF file or needing to export a SAF file to a clearinghouse. Just on that though, the it's essentially the same SAF file that gets spat out the system, whether you're using Sybiz Super or the SAF export. So in that sense, that file works with Sybiz Super, but what we found is some clearinghouses may want to know, what kind of car your next door neighbor drives as part of the SAF file. I'm being a bit facetious there, but essentially they may ask for additional information that has nothing to do with the super stream and super process. They just want that for their marketing or data gathering processes. So the SAF export, if you do add that module to your license, the SAF file, you may get a rejection from your clearinghouse because they want more information that's not necessary to provide. What we recommend there is just tell the clearinghouse to accept the file as it is. We've heard that's what they're doing in a lot of cases, but yeah, if you do need to add more information in there, that's something that you're going to need to do if you do choose a different option from Sybiz Super. So just bear that in mind. And yeah, again, making the point that the ATO's small business superannuation clearinghouse is no longer an option. So in all of our Payday Super webinars thus far, we've talked about this just to provide a bit of context of a couple different payrolls and what these changes will mean. So on the left-hand side, this is kind of like the Sybiz situation. We do pay monthly, and we currently pay super monthly as well, just by choice. All we're going to need to do is bring forward the payment of that monthly super to being aligned with payday. So it's not a big change for us. We don't have anyone exceeding the maximum super contribution base, etc. So we don't have any under 18s working 30 or less hours per week. So it's a pretty easy transition for us. So all we've really had to do is review the qualifying earnings flags and prepare to tighten our timeframes on our super processing. So contrast that with someone who's doing weekly pays and currently paying super quarterly. They've been using the small business superannuation clearinghouse. They have got some employees exceeding the contribution base, etc. Perhaps some under 18s as well. There's a little bit more for them to do. So they still have to review the qualifying earnings flags on their pay items, find another avenue to report and pay their super. And yeah, instead of paying super 4 times a year, it's going to be 52, 53 times per year. And yeah, manage that transition from the quarterly to the annual super contribution base. So the little point there of reviewing your staff types early in 26, 27, that's not really necessary anymore, except to say there may be certain staff types where you haven't ticked that flag on that may be pertinent. So still, you can actually review those staff types as soon as possible. You don't have to wait until 26, 27. Okay, so a couple other things as well. Again, a bit of repetition. So just make sure your employees are on board with this as well. They need to know that they need to get any changed information to you as soon as possible. And yeah, just check your existing super details in Visipay. Um, Funds now have 3 days to reject a submission, etc., etc. And yeah, we'll show a screen cap of where to put your employer default. So that's really just to sort of store it in case someone who doesn't normally handle the payroll function gets into a bit of a panic because they've got a new staff member who has no idea where they want their super to go. And if you want to send it to your employer default, the person who's looking after your job may not know where that is meant to go. So we've put that in the software. Um, yeah, for your new employees as well, make sure they give you that they tend to not have too much trouble giving you their bank details so they can get paid, but really the super details is just as important now. Um, there is an onboarding process also available as part of Sybiz Super as well for new employees. With new employees, you do have 20 business days to complete the initial submission, but yeah, we'd rather people just yeah get the information right from the get-go and not worry about having to have separate processes for new employees. Just get the information right, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, just as I said, there's the verification service that is coming, and more information will follow on that as we get closer to the time. So qualifying earnings, we've talked about that a bit already. So this is essentially a new concept, very similar to OTE. And yeah, you can still pay super on items that aren't qualifying earnings. But as soon as you click the qualifying earnings flag on, it's going to say that you're paying super. But then you can click the qualifying earnings flag off and still pay super as well. So it's got that flexibility within the system. And yeah, so essentially qualifying earnings will start getting reported under STP from the 1st of July. Super liability has been reported since the get-go with Sybiz Visipay from an STP reporting perspective. So it's just the addition from a STP point of view. The only thing that's really changing is qualifying earnings is going to be reported. So essentially what happens with the qualifying earnings is that's what the ATO uses to see whether you've been paying the right amount of super. So they'll kind of look at how much super you've been paying relative to qualifying earnings and exception managing if like just that taking that last scenario with a 12% super rate if someone's year-to-date qualifying earnings are 10,000 but you've only reported a super liability of 1,000, they're going to say, well, hang on, that doesn't make sense. It appears to us that you've underpaid them, and they'll come and take you to task over that. So here's the qualifying earning flag. It's in the relevant pay items, and it does yeah go hand in hand with the superannuation does apply. So again, now that you're seeing this screen, what happens on upgrade is we will tick the qualifying earnings flag for you if you had super does apply prior to upgrading from an earlier version. And yes, so it is flexible in terms of, as I said, you can still pay super and it not be qualifying earnings. So that's the qualifying earnings flag. Hopefully you've got all that sorted now because it has been in place since version 25.10. It was listed as OTE at that point in time because when the qualifying earnings concept had originally came out in the legislation, it was kind of described as something that is a behind the scenes thing, but as we got closer and closer to Payday Super and the regulations, etc., were coming through, that elevated the importance of qualifying earnings, and OTE is uh, nowhere near as important as qualifying earnings is from a super perspective. So on with yeah, just a bit more about the qualifying earnings is that we stop the reporting of qualifying earnings occurring prior to the 1st of July. So you don't have to do anything. So you can tag those pay items today as qualifying earnings and pay them. And we just don't report qualifying earnings until we get into Payday Super, so you don't have to do anything fancy there. 2610 is the minimum version required for the STP2 reporting requirements. So essentially, if you're not on 2610 come 1st of July, your STP submissions are going to get rejected. Yeah, you'll be in a bit of strife as far as that's concerned. So just even though qualifying earnings is a new concept, it does behave the same way from a STP reporting point of view as all the other employee level data, in that it is a year-to-date figure. So if you see the qualifying earnings figure increasing in the STP submissions, that is perfectly normal and in line with all of the other employee level data that's reported through the STP process. So a couple other things, again, might be a little bit of repetition here as well, is that one of the key changes between OTE and QE is that commission derived solely from overtime is deemed as QE, and it's still not deemed as OTE. So that is a key change, but bonuses derived solely from overtime, they're still not QE and they weren't OTE previously, so that's unchanged treatment there. So it is a little bit quirky there. So if you do have pay items that are configured in that way, you may need to revisit those for those edge cases. We've talked about the maximum contribution base changing to annual from quarterly. We handled that for you. We now handle the shortfall exemption certificates. And again, we'll give you a screen grab in a moment on that as well. The under 18s, again, the mechanics of how that all works with the 30 or less hours per week, that hasn't changed, but we handle the QE reporting for you on that. So if they do work more than 30 hours per week, that is qualifying earnings, and we pick that up for you without you having to do any gymnastics with using different pay items in those scenarios. Yeah, so just again, review the need to pay super on items that aren't qualifying earnings. So you may take this opportunity to revisit some of those edge cases within your own organization. But for the most part, if something's qualifying earnings, you're paying super on it. And if you're paying super, it's qualifying earnings. But if you've got exceptions, just be mindful of reviewing those as well. Okay, from a timing perspective as well, there is the crossover of when the Q4 super is due to be paid, which is the 28th of July. So you could have 3 weekly payday super runs before you pay your final quarter. What that means and everything, that's even from an ATO perspective, they haven't released a lot of information about that, so we will defer to them. If that is a scenario that is causing you concern in terms of what it means for the concessional contribution caps and things like that, then we do ask that you contact the ATO or your other advisors on that, because we don't have information at the ATO that we can point you to answer all of those questions. And the ATO does recommend to do your final quarter contribution if you're in a position to do so. They do understand there's cash flow implications, etc. It's not going to be possible for everyone, but that will obviously make your life a little bit easier. It may still cause concern for the concessional contribution cap breaches, and again, that's something to work through with the ATO if that's a concern for you. Just advice as well that if you do want the super to hit members' accounts prior to the 30th of June, so it's included in the 25-26 financial year, you should be reporting it and paying it by the 20th of June. And yeah, that's just obviously going to cause issues if you've still got 1 or 2 paydays to go after the 20th of June, but at least you can get the lion's share into the super accounts prior to the end of the financial year. Okie doke. On to a couple of the UI changes now. So the maximum super contribution base, you continue to set the applicability of that at the staff level. So the UI that you're seeing here on the left-hand side, that's a little bit different to what you will see up until you roll into the new financial year. So once you've installed 2610, Your staff type UI is going to look exactly the same as it looks currently for you. When you roll into 2026, 27, you'll see this slight change here where all you do at the staff type level is choose whether you want to apply the maximum contribution base to that staff type or not. And then the actual figure itself has now been centralized, and that is pre-populated for you when you roll into the 26, 27 financial year. But if you need to change that for whatever reason, if there's some change in legislation partway through the year and you need to change that, that's where you go to change that. So that's under company and tax details. So again, we handle the change from quarterly to annual for you. You don't need to do anything else. So if your staff type is tagged as maximum contribution base applies already, then that will also keep that in place for the change to annual as well. If you have the ESG shortfall exemption certificates, then there is a new hold ESG until date field within the employee records. So, and it does exactly what it says on the sticker. It will hold the ESG until that particular date. That includes deeming any payments that are paid during that period as not being qualifying earnings. And as soon as you start paying beyond that date, assuming that another exemption certificate hasn't been granted, then Super will start applying there as well. Okie doke. And default super fund, I mentioned that previously under settings, common settings, you can now put that there. So that doesn't necessarily do anything other than advise people that perhaps are looking after payroll while you're on leave. And then there is also a new member number field as well. So if there's any particular instructions from the default super fund that you're using, then you can make some notes there as well. Some of them will say that if, let's just say you get a new person joining, they haven't had superannuation before, they're happy to go with your employer default, then your employer default fund may say, can you put the word new in the member number? And then that way that will let them know that it's a new member joining, or they might want a 0, they might want a 1 or something like that. So check with your default funds for that information. And again, that's one of those things that they may have been a little more patient with you previously. If you didn't do it the right way, they may have just recognized that it was a new member and set them up without you sort of doing it the way they want to do, because they've only got 3 days now to muck around. You might start getting rejections when you're doing what you've been doing previously. So just bear that in mind as well. And in terms of some of the other user interface changes as well, there is some changes in terminology. So your STP transfers are now called that rather than ATO transfer. So we had it named as ATO transfer because people would sort of, if they weren't getting STP right, they might have had to go back to the old payment summary annual report. Yeah, we're well enough into STP now to just change that terminology. We do have a new pay run tab, which we'll show you as well. And there are some changes in the UI as you roll years. So we'll talk about some of those. And again, staff types, another example that we've just talked about as well. The qualifying earnings that is included on the STP2 reconciliation report. But if you've upgraded to 2610 and you run that report now, QE will be blank, even though you're paying pay items that you flagged as QE. We don't start filling the QE bucket until you're in the 26-27 financial year. Okay, so that's just to show you the STP submission buttons, previously called ATO submission. So nothing too major there. The new pay run tab, this essentially just puts all of the common processes from a pay run perspective into the one tab. You may not be doing timesheet imports, so you can just ignore that and go straight to process pays. Obviously, once you've processed pays, you'll be doing the bank transfer and then your STP submission. So this is the interface as you will see it before you roll into 26-27. Once you roll into 26, 27, guess what? It's payday super time. So part of your pay run will be doing your super as well. So the super buttons come in to that pay run tab as well. So that just makes life a little bit easier. The existing buttons are still where they used to live. So you've got the choice to use the pay run tab or continue doing what you're doing. So you don't have to retrain that muscle memory. That's all good. But it just makes it more convenient, especially if someone is sort of looking after the payroll process when you're on leave. There is a change as well in the superannuation export. So it is going to continue being an export function for the 25-26 financial year. So that same UI applies in terms of working off the date range. But for Payday Super, it is going to be working more like a bank transfer process where you're going to be picking up the batch, if you like, of pay runs and going through a process of exporting individual pay runs and clearing them once you're satisfied that the reporting has gone through. Um, yeah, that's just a bit of a change to bear in mind there. So what that means, because as I said, made the point a couple of times where there is that crossover where your final super submission for 25, 26 isn't due until you may be already doing payday super. So those two buttons will coexist for the 26, 27 financial year. So you use the export button for pre-payday super and the transfer button for post-payday super, just because there is quite a difference in the way the data is treated either side of the 1st of July. And then eventually when you roll into the 27, 28 financial year, you'll just see the Sybiz Super Transfer button there on that tab. The old Super Export will disappear because it won't be required anymore. So just a little bit about Sybiz Super and SAF files. So Sybiz Super uses the same employer portal as STP. And essentially, you just go through a process of uploading and submitting the SAF file. And then as you step through the process, the final part of that process is using the direct debit and sending you through the funds. And there is an onboarding facility that is available as part of the Sybiz Super process as well. You can Google or jot down this link and have a look at the PDS and fee structure associated with that. And the SAF file export is available separately as a module if you're wanting to use that for destinations other than Sybiz Super Clearinghouse. So yeah, just to sort of have a look at what that experience looks like when you go onto the portal. So you export the SAF file through the processes that we've had a look at in the previous couple of slides. Jump onto the employer portal, log in, upload the file, step through the process, confirm and send, and you're done. Yeah, just mentioning again that the submissions can't be post dated. So hopefully that change will come through in the not too distant future. So again, we banged on about this a bit already, but the Small Business Superannuation Clearinghouse is closing. So there is a process to download your data. Yeah, it is yeah, something that hopefully you're well on top of if that applies to you. So just to summarize, Payday Super, essentially from a platform perspective, the building blocks have been there for quite a number of years. So we're happy with that process from a Sybiz Visipay and Sybiz Super perspective. Qualifying earnings means that there are changes required to STP2. So that is why you do need to upgrade to 2610 for that. And again, 2610 can be used today for your pay runs. It's smart enough to know which financial year you're in. Yeah, just reiterating that process as well. If you haven't yet got a solution for reporting and paying your super, get onto that as soon as possible because, yeah, you want to make sure that it works for you prior to the 1st of July because the penalties will start coming in from Payday Super. The ATO, through their first year compliance approach, are going to take a softer handed approach. So just, yeah, we do obviously recommend that you aspire to get it right from day one. Yeah, so the good news is if you've already upgraded to 2610 and you've checked your qualifying earnings flags and done things like checking for the other exception items like the maximum contribution base, and you're already using Sybiz Super, then there's really nothing more for you to do. You're ready to rock. So, but obviously, if you've still got a bit of work to do in other camps, then you'll need to get onto that so that you are ready. It is an employer obligation, so that's why you really need to lean on your employees, make sure that they're in the game as well and letting you know if they make changes. And yeah, so one of the things that will be interesting is if you do get hit with a super guarantee charge, but you've already sent your submission off, there is a possibility that your employee will get a windfall there of extra super in their account and no refund to the employer. So it is, yeah, going to be quite interesting. So for more information, you can jump on our website. Again, don't worry about copying down the URL. You can just Google that. And again, make sure that you do go to the official Sybiz website rather than getting AI hallucinations in the summary form. We link to the ATO information from there. Again, we're not republishing ATO's information at their request, so it doesn't become stale. And yeah, we really need everyone to work as a team and realize that a lot of information has been published. That's your first port of call. If you do have any questions, use your search engine to find those answers. And if you can't find those answers, by all means, get in contact with us. You will continue to probably receive communication from the ATO, even though we've told them to cut it out. That says speak to your digital service provider. Please check our website first because that's where we'll direct you if we do have the answer already. But yeah, by all means, if you can't find the answer, give us a call. We're happy to help in those circumstances. And if it's a question that you've got and you can't find the answer for, chances are someone else is going to have the same question. So we'll update our FAQs as we go as well. Also, if you've not used it before, the Super Fund lookup is a pretty handy thing to do. Quite often, we have people using Sybiz Super, and they'll get a rejection from, say, a self-managed super fund, and the rejection will say that the self-managed super fund is no longer complying, and they'll call us up as if we can do something about it. We can't, but what we can do is we can direct them to the super fund lookup to validate that that is indeed the status of that super fund. So yeah, you want to cut out the middleman or the middle person as much as possible, and bear in mind that you can, if you do get a rejection, you can jump onto the super fund lookup. That's for all super funds, not just self-managed super funds, and have a look at the status of the super funds. So sometimes there'll be a super fund that gets merged with another one, and the old one will fall by the wayside, and communication may not have got through to you as the employer. The super fund lookup will help you see what the reality is on those super funds. Okay, so as I touched on, we do have a little survey that will be included in the post-webinar email. If you do have any questions, you can chuck them in the chat box as well, but please include your email address. We did, again, one of the things we do before we run the webinars is we go through all of your questions that have been asked in the registration process to make sure that we've covered them off. And once again, we did have them all covered. So thank you for submitting those questions. Yeah, just the next webinar that we have where we'll talk a little bit again about Payday Super is the end of financial year webinar on the 22nd of June. So that's a Monday, a little bit different to the Friday webinars if you do prefer the live sessions. Just bear in mind that that one is Monday the 22nd of June. That is for both Sybiz Vision and Sybiz Visipay. So thank you again for your time. We hope that you're ready to go with Payday Super. Please fill out that readiness survey for us. We'd like that to be done as much as possible by the 31st of May. We're not asking fluffy, superfluous marketing questions. It's just straight to the point. It'll take 2 to 3 minutes and just help us shape the extent of communications that we publish over the next 5 or 6 weeks until we are live with Payday Super. So thank you once again and have a great day. Cheers. Bye.